Let's start by defining terms, because restart, redesign, and startup all mean different things. Startup is the process of establishing beneficial bacteria in a new tank to make it safe to live in. A redesign is a significant change to decor or planting that doesn't meaningfully disrupt the tank's biological balance. A restart, on the other hand, is any action that does substantially disrupt that balance. In most cases, a restart is a forced response to serious livestock illness, a soured substrate, or a severe algae outbreak, situations where decorations and substrate often need not just rinsing, but actual disinfection, and the water gets replaced entirely. Sometimes, though, a restart is simply a deliberate choice. Converting a cyclid tank into a planted tank, or the reverse, or realizing the substrate you originally chose just wasn't the right quality. That substrate point deserves its own emphasis because I can't stress this enough. Substrate isn't decoration or just somewhere for roots to sit, it's the single largest, most active filter in the entire tank. The biggest bacterial colonies in any aquarium live in and on the substrate, which means replacing substrate in an established tank is, by definition, a restart. As a bit of a philosophical aside, what counts as a restart in a bare bottom tank? Given that free floating bacteria are a small fraction of a tank's total population, with most of it living statically on glass and other surfaces, swapping out roughly 75% of the water would reasonably qualify as a restart. Even a 50% water change meaningfully disrupts biological balance in any tank. That said, tanks like that are typically breeding setups running dedicated filtration systems, or ones with such minimal stocking that it barely matters. Which brings me to my own situation. I decided to swap out most of my clay pellet and quartz substrate for soil, which meant committing to a full restart. There was nothing actually wrong with the tank going into this. I just wanted the switch. I gathered every container I had in the apartment and still ended up buying an extra 50-liter plastic tub. I picked up 2 bags of peat and soil mix, roughly 44 liters total. Peat blended soil, not pure black earth, since pure black earth isn't really sold in stores. And honestly, I wasn't eager to work with raw living soil anyway, mainly out of concern for introducing unwanted organisms into the tank. I ended up buying the same soil product I'd used for my 100-liter soil tank, plus a second bag from a different brand with comparable specs, whatever was available. People are always hunting for hidden advertising in these videos. So to be clear, this isn't a plug for any brand. Just find soil with the lowest acidity you can and no organic additives like manure mixed in. My soil's actual parameters: nitrate at 350 milligrams per kilogram, phosphate at 400, potassium at 500 pH, 6 to 7. Yes, that's more acidic than ideal, but finding soil at pH 7 to 8 in stores is basically not realistic. For anyone who hasn't seen my earlier video on setting up the 100-liter soil tank, the more acidic the soil, the higher the risk of it souring over time. How likely and how fast that souring happens depends mainly on how much soil you're using and on your water's hardness and pH. Plenty of keepers run soil tanks for 5+ years without any souring at all. But if you live somewhere with very soft water, certain regions with carbonate hardness of 1 to 2, sometimes essentially 0, you should either skip a soil substrate entirely or mix the soil with coral gravel, crushed limestone, or similar hardness raising minerals right from the start. Some people add a large volume of crushed eggshell for the same purpose. Just make sure it's thoroughly cleaned of residual protein first, or you're inviting a hydrogen sulfide problem fast. For anyone in that soft water situation, I'd also strongly recommend capping the soil with a mineral rich substrate that actively raises hardness. Don't be surprised by the nitrate to phosphate ratio in garden soil either. Redfield weeps and the plants couldn't care less. Plants in garden beds and pots have never respected that ratio, and once aquarium plant roots reach down into a soil layer, they discover an entirely different set of proportions. Works just fine too. Next, I scrubbed out a bathtub for housing my sizable fish population and drained roughly 180 liters out of the tank's total 220-liter volume into it. Then I moved the external filter's intake and output from the tank over to the tub, effectively turning the tub into a functioning copy of the tank, minus substrate and plants. And that's where the genuinely risky part of the process began: pulling plants out of the substrate. There was no avoiding this step. There was simply no other realistic way to catch that many small fish out of such dense growth. Worth understanding, disturbing substrate releases everything that's accumulated in it into the water column, and that can poison fish fast, so you need to get them out as quickly as possible once that happens. And then I carefully uprooted and removed all the plants, and since I'd run out of spare containers, I packed them into large plastic bags, soaked them well, and sealed the bags tightly. Naturally, a good amount of sediment ended up in the water. Having a 2,800 liter per hour pump filter running in the tank helped limit how badly things clouded up and settled. With the plants gone and the water volume already reduced, I managed to catch the fish quickly and move them into the tub. Then, in the remaining tank water, I rinsed the internal filter sponge and moved that filter into the tub as well. Now, an important note here: everyone's reasons for restarting are different. And if your situation involves water problems, substrate issues, algae, or disease, please don't just copy what I'm doing. So, your situation calls for a different approach entirely. If you're setting up fresh on soil, you should pour clean water over the soil and let it sit for half a day or a full day beforehand, ideally well in advance. Or do what I did: pour water directly over it and thoroughly mix the substrate by hand, depending on your patience and energy level. From there, you generally need to remove all the substrate and rinse it thoroughly. And for some setups, you might need to soak it afterward in diluted bleach, peroxide, or another disinfectant to kill off harmful pathogens. Understanding that this will also kill every beneficial microbe and bacteria along with them. And if you use peroxide, it'll break down all the organic matter too. After a chemical soak like that, you'd rinse thoroughly again before returning the substrate to the tank. In my case, though, there were no actual problems, not with the water, not the substrate, not algae. As I mentioned in an earlier video, the substrate hadn't accumulated nearly as much sludge as expected after 3.5 years, and it had no unpleasant odor at all. Understanding just how nutrient rich that established substrate actually was, here's what I did instead. I poured the leftover tank water directly over the soil, effectively seeding it with the tank's full existing bacterial population. Then I removed all the old substrate, roughly 30 liters of quartz mixed with 10 liters of clay pellets, and separated the two. The unwashed, sediment-laden quartz was already exactly what I wanted going back into the tank. If you're curious why I use clay pellets at all, check my earlier videos on this tank's original setup. It might sound wild to some of you, but I didn't bail out the remaining sediment-laden water from the tank at all, and I just left it in place for the same reasoning as above. That's a nutrient-rich bacterial medium, and there's no reason to remove it, especially once it ends up buried safely under the new soil layer. Then I laid the soil across the tank bottom, well saturated with water to prevent gas pockets from forming, and capped it with the old, heavily sediment-laden quartz. In the end, I had roughly 6 centimeters of soil, topped with about 3 centimeters of quartz, bringing the combined substrate volume to around 40 liters in this 260-liter tank, the same total as before. Worth noting that 40-liter figure reflects settled volume. Even though I'd bought 44 liters of dry soil material to start, in my earlier video on setting up a soil substrate tank, I went into detail on why a true soil substrate, as opposed to a thin nutrient base layer, needs a minimum depth of around 4 centimeters, ideally more. I won't get into the chemistry and anaerobic bacterial activity behind that here, just the practical takeaway. Sufficient depth is what keeps the substrate from souring, or at minimum, delays it by years, even under imperfect care. Back to my restart. After capping the soil with quartz, I placed an empty soil bag on the bottom and poured about 40 liters of water directly onto it. This is genuinely important, always. Whenever starting or restarting a tank, but especially with aquasoil, nutrient substrates, or true soil, always place a plate, or better, a plastic bag, on the substrate before pouring water in, and pour directly onto that surface. This trick prevents soil, substrate particles, or fine dust from clouding the water. Since I'd used heavily sediment-laden quartz as my cap, a lot of that sediment immediately clouded the water regardless. I also deliberately disturbed the top layer of quartz by hand to help flush out more sediment from the surface layer, then did a surface level vacuum and drained that first batch of water out. If you pour water carelessly and immediately see soil or dirty water mixing in, just drain it and start again. I then refilled with roughly 40 liters of tap water, plus about 20 liters pulled from my other tanks and from the tub. I also added an EM bacterial culture to the water, not strictly necessary, but genuinely worth doing during any restart, using whatever biological starter product you have access to speed the process along. After that, I moved the internal pump filter back from the tub into the tank, hooked up aeration, tossed in some water sprite, and left the tank without lighting for 2 days. As with any new setup, having fast growing floating plants present really helps speed along and stabilize both a startup and a restart. I honestly wasn't worried at all about the fish's safety in the tub. For their comfort and to reduce stress, I added a few plant bunches and some hiding spots. I skipped feeding for a full day before the restart and for another 2 days while they stayed in the tub, both to ease the load on filtration and to reduce overall stress on the fish. And naturally, I couldn't resist filming a little aquarium in a bathtub segment along the way. Not everyone caught the joke or watched through to the end, but most viewers got a genuine laugh out of it. The whole process, start to finish, took about 8 hours. Most of it spent digging out substrate and sorting quartz from clay pellets, hardly ideal conditions for filming with shaky sediment covered hands, so I documented the process in bursts during breaks. On the third day, I tested the water. Nitrate and phosphate sat close to zero, ammonia and nitrite were undetectable, KH sat at 6, and pH at 7.5. Which, honestly, is exactly what you'd expect. Carefully poured water hadn't mixed with the sediment at all. Tap water carries negligible nitrate and phosphate to begin with, and the modest bacterial bloom from the starter culture, along with the water sprite, consumed whatever small trace remained. Seeing those numbers, I decided it was time to bring some fish back and reintroduce plants. And that's exactly where disappointment hit. After 2 days sealed in bags, quite a few plants had died off entirely, and others looked genuinely rough. There's only so much you can plan for. I had no other space to put that volume of plants, and cramming them into the tub alongside the fish would only have hurt the fish. Before returning the fish to the tank, I poured the old tank water back from the tub into the tank, so the restarted tank ended up with over 70% of its water coming from the original setup. After that, I returned the fish and reconnected the external filter and replanted whatever vegetation I could salvage. I cut lighting to half the usual intensity and gradually ramped it back up over 2 weeks. The next day, I fed the fish sparingly for the first time in 4 days. I never intended to restore every single plant to the tank. My actual goal was a meaningful refresh, leaning toward slower growing species with well developed root systems. The minimum objective was reestablishing biological balance and stabilizing water parameters, which the surviving old plants were meant to help with. I also didn't want to risk newly purchased plants if algae ended up taking hold and needing to be fought off. Better safe than sorry. Surprisingly, the tank's biological balance snapped back almost immediately. The water was nearly fully clear again by the day after the fish went back in. Over the following month, no ammonia or nitrite showed up at all, and nitrate and phosphate stayed at minimal levels throughout. There was genuinely no algae, not even the green dust algae I'd dealt with after starting my 100-liter soil tank. You can see exactly how clean the glass looks a month after the restart, and it hasn't been cleaned once since then. Unlike the 100-liter tank, which was set up on completely dry soil, this tank showed no substrate off-gassing at all. So the rare tiny bubble here and there doesn't really count. Without that off-gassing, there was no corresponding release of nitrate and phosphate from the soil into the water, and no noticeable water discoloration either. Nothing like what happened in the 100-liter tank. 2 weeks after the restart, I did a heavy trim in my overgrown 100-liter soil tank and replanted the trimmings into this tank. They took root almost immediately and started growing fast. Milfoil came back to life and grew rapidly, along with Mayaka, that fluffy green plant next to it. Alternate Thera reinecki, which I'd nearly given up on and considered tossing, also perked right back up. I'm now trimming the milfoil, mayaca, and limnophila weekly and pulling out huge armfuls of hornwort and thinning the water sprite every week too. And I've been posting weekly video updates and water parameters in the club's supporter group, tracking how the tank has developed. One more thing I almost forgot. Before the restart, this tank's carbonate hardness sat at 2, which is genuinely too low for a soil substrate. You really want to avoid letting KH drop below 4, ideally keeping it at 6 or higher, alongside a minimum pH of 7. That matters specifically to prevent a rapid drop in carbonate hardness, rising acidity, and eventual substrate souring. So since the restart, I've gradually raised hardness by topping off with cold tap water at KH 14 to 17. My hot tap runs at KH 2, and after 3 weeks did a 20% water change, which brought current KH up to 5. Other current parameters: nitrate at 10, phosphate at 0.5, pH 7, with ammonia and nitrite both undetectable. And most importantly, over the full month following the restart, only a single fish died. On day 3, the smallest neon in the group, one that had honestly looked a bit off its whole life compared to the rest of the shoal. That's really the single most telling indicator of whether a restart went well or badly, especially in a tank this heavily stocked. On top of that, roughly 2 weeks after the restart, right after replanting the trimmings from the 100-liter soil tank, my angelfish spawned. Wrapping up with a few key takeaways. First, if you're interested in setting up or maintaining a soil substrate tank, definitely check out my earlier video on starting the 100-liter soil tank, where I go into real detail on the specifics, along with other follow-up videos covering lessons learned from direct experience. Read the comments under those videos too, and check out other aquarists' takes on the same topic. Second, any restart needs to be genuinely well thought out and planned in advance. Third, just like with a fresh startup, reusing old tank water and substrate sediment, and assuming your restart isn't being driven by actual water or substrate problems, along with biological starter products, will meaningfully speed up and de-risk the whole process. Fourth, fast-growing plants, especially floaters, help speed up and stabilize both startups and restarts alike. Fifth, reusing a functioning filter from the original tank dramatically speeds up the restart process. Sixth, solid aeration is non-negotiable for both startups and restarts. Don't judge the current look of the tank too harshly. This is very much a rough draft, not a finished aquascape, and that's what you should expect from any tank a month out from a startup or restart. Right now, it's just planted enough to sketch out where things are headed, but more importantly, it's already stable enough to run without water changes at genuinely safe, stable water parameters. Take care, and here's to peace and calm waters ahead.